Hello to everyone on YouTube. I am Makeda Valletta, and I'm about to go live on my Instagram page as well. So give me one moment. If you don't follow me on Instagram, be sure to follow me at the_Renaissance_Amazon_81 on Instagram. Hello to my IG world and YouTube. It's Makeda Valletta, also known as the Renaissance Amazon. I hope you all are doing well today. And today's discussion, I want to talk about protest, riots, organization, and endurance, okay? So we all know what's going on. We all know about all of the protests and riots and burning of cities that's going on right now. And I must say, I am proud of every single person who is out there in the streets fighting the good fight. Okay, some of you may or may not be familiar with my background, but I am the daughter of a civil rights fighter, okay, and a union organizer. My dad was on the front lines of the civil rights movement. He was a black radical from Florida, and he was a part of the organization that strategically put the Black Panthers together, okay, which actually started in Alabama. A lot of people don't know that. The Black Panther Party started in Alabama, Lawrence County, Alabama, registering people to vote, okay? And overnight, the elected officials in Alabama went from white to black because the black people in Alabama way outnumbered the white people, okay? So despite what people think, the Black Panthers did not start in Oakland. You know what I mean? Did not start with guns and being armed, okay? So voting is important. And I feel like finally this year, a lot of people are starting to understand that. There's been too many years where we've had black celebrities saying they don't vote and making that popular. That shit is dumb. If voting didn't matter, then the racist, white supremacist powers that be wouldn't have tried to stop us from voting. And they tried to stop women. So this is supposed to be for just white men can vote, but women and black people can't vote. People died for us to have that right for a reason, okay? Yes, the system is flawed, but tell me a country that doesn't have a flawed system. The system in the US is better than a lot of countries, okay? And even if the system is flawed, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't vote. Flood the systems with your vote. Flood the system with your vote because they're expecting people not to vote. There's a whole pandemic. People have lost their jobs. A lot of people aren't thinking about that, but it's important to think about that, okay? And not just for president, but even for your local elected officials, okay? And so my dad, he was involved in the civil rights movement. My mom, she's a union organizer, okay? She works for the UAW, the United Auto Workers. But she doesn't represent auto workers. Actually, she's retired and she counsels the presidents of other unions. My mom is very well known in the labor world, okay? So I grew up on picket lines at Columbia University. Picket lines and strikes at Columbia University, Barnard College. My mom also has organized, she has the Museum of Modern Art, the Women's Feminist Press, Union Theological Seminary, the TAs at NYU, Columbia University and Barnard Clerical Workers. So I grew up and I saw my mom do that work. I saw her, organize, educate people enough so that they would be willing to strike. Nobody wants to do that, to get people, but there's strength in numbers, okay? And that's one thing I did learn, strength in numbers. If you can educate enough people to understand that we need to strike right now, and we stay unified in that, and you have skilled jobs and positions that can't be easily replaced, that's how you make change. And I've seen that work, okay? And then my mom also being a union organizer, she's very much connected to politics. Her and my dad know way more about politics than me, okay? I'm more of a science person. I know politics is important, but that's not my expertise. But my parents, that's their thing. And they pay attention to every little thing that happens. And a lot of people don't. A lot of people really don't have any idea of every little law that's being passed, all these little bills, and how it affects us. A lot of people don't. I feel like this is a time where people are starting to wake up. I'm also really happy to see white people on the front lines, okay, of these protests. White people. First of all, it's amazing that it's happening in every single city, okay? Small towns. I'm like, really? In Salt Lake City, in Omaha, Nebraska, Portsmouth, Virginia, like really, like everybody's out in the streets right now? And I have mad respect for them because for me, I grew up that way. I know how important it is. But because of all the craziness, I had kind of been avoiding the protest because I'm like, I'm not trying to get tear gassed and run over or no shit like that. I did go to a protest in Harlem on 125th Street last week, briefly for a moment and watch it from a distance. But I'm currently in Chicago. When I get back to New York, I definitely am going to go to some protests and spend more time there because I feel like we need the bodies. You know, I have mad respect for all the people who have been coming out day after day after day. You know, I have an ex-roommate in New York. He's a white Cuban from Miami. Before, you know, back in like 2015, 2016, when there was a whole lot of Black Lives Matter protests, he would be the first one on his bike and out to a protest. And already he's told me he's been to 6, okay? White people should be on the front lines, okay? When I see the police now brutalizing white people, pushing them down, beating them with shit, first of all, I'm not trying to catch that. We shouldn't have to catch that. Black people have caught enough. So mad respect for the white people who standing in those front lines, getting tear gassed by the police, getting beat and pushed by the police. Unfortunately, there was a young white girl, I don't know if she's from Ohio, 22-year-old girl who died because she got tear gassed and it activated her asthma. That's really sad, okay? And my heart goes out to that girl and her family, okay? Because the thing is that these are brave souls who are going out to these protests because anything could happen. So I have the most respect for the people who are organizing and going out and making their voices heard, making the signs, doing what they got to do. People need to have endurance to keep going, okay? This is why, like, you know, some of you don't know, like, I'm a dancer. I study dances of the African diaspora, right? So a lot of stuff from Cuba, from Brazil, from Peru, from Colombia, from Puerto Rico, from Dominican Republic, from Haiti, from the US, right? And the dance, and I've learned a lot from studying all the dances of the diaspora, okay? There's so much medicine in them. There are dances that prepare for war, okay? Dances that get you hyped up. Let's not forget that the Haitian Revolution, voodoo, okay, was attached to the Haitian Revolution. The drum. This drum right here. My favorite, my first drum, okay? This is a Haitian peto drum. This drum, okay, this drum right here, in Haitian voodoo, you have peto, which are the fire spirits, and then you have rata, okay, which are the calmer spirits. The rata spirits are actually from Africa. The peto spirits actually are not. So what does that mean? They're indigenous. What does that mean? That indigenous spirits played a huge role in ending slavery in Haiti and making Haitians free. Okay, so indigenous people weren't weak. And Haitian voodoo is not just African. It's Afro-indigenous. There's also Native American contributions just as much to Haitian voodoo as it is African. But this peto drum, okay, is linked to the revolution. The peto rhythm, the dances, the fire spirits, okay? And the drum is what gave a lot of people the energy to keep going. As a dancer, I can tell you, no matter what you've seen me do on YouTube or Instagram, it's 10% of how I actually can dance because I'm trying to stay in a little camera frame, because I'm not in a studio with the right floor, and because I don't have the drums, okay? When you have live drums, it activates your body and mind to do things that you can't do without it, okay? So when I think about these people who are out here protesting day after day, I think about what can I do to help them keep up their chi and their endurance so they can keep doing that work. I'm so proud of the people who didn't stop just because George Floyd's murderers got arrested. They didn't say, okay, it's time to stop. It's not time to stop. And you know why? It's amazing, okay? It's amazing to see how many things are happening. That the head of the NFL is apologizing, really? Because you know what? I never fucking saluted no goddamn flag or no national anthem. That song's always been bullshit to me. As a Black American, no Black American should be forced to sing that racist ass song. And white Americans for too long have been in denial of the racist history of this country, of all the shit that Black people have had to endure. Yes, we have issues with the police, but it's so much more than that. It's so much more than that, okay? Black people in general have our set of struggles. Black men have a special set of struggles, and Black women have a special set of struggles because I'm Black and I'm a woman. Okay, so that's a double negative. Okay, so the thing is that even with dance, what I've learned from studying dances in the diaspora, Black people, Afro-Indigenous people, we danced to shake off the trauma. Okay, because when traumatic shit is happening to you, you have to find a way to process that and shake it off and not just let it sit there. Okay, this is medicine that our ancestors have used for generations. Why in the fuck do you think people are shaking so hard in Brazil? Have you ever seen Black people in Brazil dance? They dance on 1,000. Okay, why do you think they shake and gyrate so much in Colombia? Why do you think they gyrate and whine so much in Jamaica? Why do you think they do that shit in Colombia, in Trinidad? Why? Down south in the US, the twerking, the bounce. Why? We see that common thread. In New Orleans, if you don't know about New Orleans second line dancing, you definitely should know. Look on YouTube, even though what you find on YouTube will do it no justice, but you should know about New Orleans second line dancing that traditionally was done at a funeral. It's a dance for the dead, okay? Very upbeat. Why is that? So that the mourners can shake off that energy, because when you mourn and you can't let go of that person that passed, you can hold on to their spirit so they can't rest in peace. So part of helping them to rest in peace is you dancing it off, you know what I'm saying? Shake it off so you can, you can't dance to festive music and cry at the same time. So the fact that you could be okay, you could let them go, right? And you can shake off any trauma that's in your system so you can let go of that. Because when you hold on to trauma, it can leave imprints in your energy fields that can then be passed on to your children and can be activated later on in life, just like a virus can be dormant in your system. And then when you're not taking care of yourself one day, it activates. Same thing. So we have to have things that we can do to help transform energy, to help shake off the trauma, to help reset our energy fields, to help regenerate our chi so that we can keep fighting and have the endurance to do it. Okay. At first, I thought that the writing was like a bit much, but then it's like, this is how I feel about the writing. I don't give a fuck about people burning down or robbing Gucci or Apple or any of these big major companies. I never cared about that, okay? I would steal from a big major company with no guilt in a second if I could, because everything that they make comes from sweatshops, okay? $200 Nikes, they paid 10 cents to make that shit in some third world country, okay? Now, I don't even like saying third world country, but you know what I mean, a poor country. All these expensive things, they paid pennies for, and they charge us 200 times more than what they pay for it. The profits are ridiculous. So I don't care about that. But I do not think it's a good idea for us to be destroying our own neighborhoods, okay? I mean, when I say our own neighborhoods, small Black businesses, you have that's happened in Chicago, or heard it's happened in Atlanta. I'm from Harlem. When I was in Harlem, there was no looting in Harlem. So that shit happened downtown Manhattan. It didn't happen in Harlem. Then the neighborhood north of Harlem is Inwood, Dyckman, Washington Heights. Washington Heights, Dyckman, it's a very Dominican area, and I'm from that whole uptown area. There's never been an issue between Black Americans and Dominicans in my neighborhood. Now, I'm very much familiar with the race and color issues that Dominicans have. I'm very much aware of the issue that they have with Haitians. They have some issues within them, right? And so I'm very much well aware of it. But uptown New York City, Black Americans and Dominicans coexist. We never had a problem. We don't have any problems. Me and my twin brother have Dominican friends, always had Dominican friends, never had a problem with any Dominican, okay, at all. Now, a lot of them, like people my age, will tell you that their parents have these backwards ideas. But the younger people, Dominicans, and like my age and younger in New York, don't carry that, okay? And we've never had a problem. It's not like Blacks and Latinos. I put Latinos in the quotation because Latinos can be different things depending on which Latinos you're talking about. But in a lot of American cities, Blacks and Latinos have beef, or they're not that close. Like with Chicago, it seems that Blacks and Mexicans have a problem. Blacks and Puerto Ricans, I don't really understand. It seems like Blacks and Puerto Ricans in Chicago I used to get told they had a problem. Then I get told they don't. All I know is they're still not as tight as we are in New York. In New York, Black Americans and Puerto Ricans are like this. Mad tight. Mad tight. And Dominicans too, was no issue. You know, Puerto Ricans assimilated a little bit more than Dominicans, but there's no beef. So to see how the media and social media was trying to instigate what happened uptown with these Dominicans that was, you know, trying to get looters out of the neighborhood that they thought were looters, and it was a misunderstanding, and they were saying the N-word. But to put things in context, Dominicans and Puerto Ricans in New York do say the N-word, and it's acceptable. I personally don't like the N-word. You never hear me say it. I did a whole YouTube video on it. I personally don't like to hear anybody say it. And I feel like if Black Americans kept that in the house, if you really want to use the N-word and you kept it in the house, then you wouldn't have the whole world running around saying it and having a problem, because everybody watches us as Black Americans. As much as people might want to hate on America and hate on Black Americans, everybody watches us. The whole Black world watches us. The whole world watches us. Look at the whole world protesting now because of us. Because of us. We don't start protesting because they start protesting in the UK. We don't start protesting because they're protesting in Senegal. We don't start protesting because they're protesting in Jamaica. But everybody protests because we do. So in Black American music, everywhere I've gone, I've traveled a lot. I haven't been everywhere, but everywhere I've gone, I've heard people playing Black American music. Whether I'm in Cuba, whether I am in Haiti, whether I'm in Europe, I hear Black American music. So everybody listens to our music. Everybody copies our style. So why don't we think about what we put out and stop saying nigga this, nigga that, nigga this, nigga that, I'm just a nigga, nigga, nigga. Like, that shit sounds fucking dumb. White people listen to more hip hop than Black people do. They buy it more, everything. But then we get mad when they say the N-word in the song, but you're saying it every 2 seconds. Like, how ignorant and stupid is that? If you're supposed to be a lyricist, can't you think of another word? Why the fuck do people have to say nigga, nigga, nigga since the fucking 90s? It's 2020. Y'all can't think of another fucking word? I've never heard another slang word last as long as the N-word. And this shit is an ugly fucking word. So Black people, can we stop? Can we find some other words to use? Because if we believe there's vibration in a word and that a word carries energy, why do we keep reciting a word and calling each other a word that has such an ugly history when it comes to us? When there's millions of other motherfucking words that we could use. Seriously, okay? I'm just going to say that. But anyhow, I don't think it's good, because when you see Detroit, okay? Detroit, I haven't been to Detroit in 10 years. People tell me it's changed. But the last time I was in Detroit, I know that Detroit was really fucked up and run down. I love people from Detroit. Love y'all. You're my favorite. Love Detroit people. But the city is fucked up, okay? And the thing is that happened from the riots when King died. When King died, they tore up the city, and a lot of commercial businesses pulled out of Detroit. And they said, we're not coming back. So when you're in Detroit, you got to drive out of the city for a decent supermarket, or even to find a supermarket. I don't remember seeing supermarkets in Detroit. If you wanted to go to the Gap or anything like regular shit, you had to leave Detroit, because none of the commercial companies wanted to be in Detroit. So that might sound cute to you right now until you have that problem. And that may be okay with people who are younger, able-bodied, who can drive outside the city. I wouldn't want to have to drive outside the city for everything I need, but some people can do that. But what about the elderly people who cannot do that, who don't have access to drive outside the city for everything? What about when you destroy a CVS? This happened in Baltimore. When you destroy a drugstore and you say, well, you know, it's not our company, we don't own it anyway. True. But what about the elderly people who need that CVS to get their medications? And now they might die or have serious problems because you burned down the damn drugstore and they don't have access to get to another one. Now, being from New York City, we have a drugstore at every block. So if you destroy one, there's 5 more in the next 6 blocks. Okay, so we'll be good. But a lot of places are not like that. You destroy this drugstore and this is the only one in this area. And when you have people who have access issues, that affects them. So that's the downside I see to destroying big drugstores, for that. But other than that, I don't give a fuck about some goddamn Gucci or Prada, whatever stupid ass designer, Nike and Apple. Okay, so what? All right. And possibly has its place. Because part of the rioting, maybe if the protests were just peaceful, maybe people wouldn't have changed so quickly. You wouldn't see these changes happening so quickly. Because Nobody wants chaos. The powers that be do not want chaos. The people with money do not want chaos because it affects their money and their business. So for those who are out there causing chaos, two things. One, I think some of the chaos is valid. I think some of the looting and the burning things down, I think some of that is valid and done by people who are really pissed off. But then I think there are also people who are instigating things. And how can we tell which one is which? Now, how do we know that these black businesses that are getting destroyed, maybe those are the instigators who are doing that and not the true rioters, protesters, people who are outraged? I don't know. But I do know that we should not be destroying black businesses. There should be, if anything, this is the time when black people need to be hyper vigilant, okay, about supporting black businesses. Fuck that blackout date on July 7th. We need more than a day, okay? We need more than a day. Nobody gives a fuck about a day. This needs to be a practice, a strategic practice moving forward to do our very best to support black businesses. Because so many immigrant groups, okay, every immigrant group under the sun has come to this country. Every single city you go to, every American city I go to, there's a bunch of Indian people, Chinese people, Caribbeans, owning businesses, Africans, but where do you see black American businesses? There'll be whole neighborhoods full of Indian businesses, whole neighborhoods full of Korean businesses. My neighborhood in New York, tons of Dominican businesses, but do you see black American businesses? No. And there's something up with that. And a lot of these immigrant groups do not support us at the end of the day. I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of them don't. So it's really important. Like black Americans will always put at the bottom, okay? Every immigrant group who comes here who says they struggle, they still get put above us, okay? But as black Americans, we should have free education. We shouldn't have to pay a motherfucking dollar for college or graduate school. We are owed that. We should be given preferential loans for businesses, not people who are not from this country. So there's some fundamental issues. So this is why us as black Americans, we need to make a conscious effort to support black businesses, to make lists and share. And there may be certain things you need that a black business doesn't make. Then let's support people who are trying to start those companies to do those things. That should be a very important conscious effort of ours. Okay, and anybody else who wants to support black people, but if black people aren't doing it, we need to start with ourselves, okay? And not be trying to destroy black businesses and say it doesn't matter because I was mad, because it does. Because you have black businesses who are owned by people who have kids to feed. And we just went going through this COVID thing, people have been closed, people lost a lot of money. We don't need to break down our own people. Let's not do that. I see a lot of people posting things on social media, this like paragraph where it's like, I'm a black man or I'm a black woman and I don't tear down other black men and black women and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's great. So if that's the case, let's not tear down black businesses. Let's actually practice what we preach. If you say you don't do that, then don't think it's okay to destroy black businesses. That I'm not okay with, okay? You can go to the white neighborhood and burn down their little small businesses. You can do it to anybody else, but not us, okay? Let's not do it to us. Because in this country, everybody has taken from us. Everybody has benefited off of our struggle. People have benefited off the struggle of black Americans who don't even know it. Every melanated immigrant that comes to the United States is benefiting off of the struggle of black Americans and the fight. There are a lot of black Americans who fought to change the laws in the U.S. to allow more black immigrants to come to this country. And now there's so many black people and melanated people who come to America who have tension with us, when their asses wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us. Now, I grew up in New York City around all kinds of people. I have love for the diaspora. I got love for the world. But respect is key. So one thing I don't like is people coming to this country, my country. I'm as American as apple pie, and talking shit and looking down on me and my people when I come from a family of fighters. I come from a family who've helped to create, change things in this country, whether it be labor laws and labor stuff or conditions for black people. So I take it personal when people do that. I have family members that fought in every war in this country, from the Revolutionary War until the last World Wars, okay? I have family members that fought in the Civil War, all of that. So I take it as a personal offense when people come to this country and are benefiting off of our fight and our struggle, and then they have shit to talk. Not acceptable. And black Americans need to be calling people out on that shit. We need to be supporting each other. And for those of you, who have the energy and the means to go to a protest, I encourage you to do so. Even if you keep your distance, be safe, of course. None of us, if anybody's going out there, put on some damn goggles. If you wear, you probably should put on goggles anyway. But if you have contacts, I heard that the tear gas can cause the contacts to burn onto your eyeballs and cause permanent blindness, which is horrible. Now, I really don't want that to happen to me. But when it's all said and done, I want my kids, my future kids, and whoever else, I want to say that I did something during this time. I don't want to be one of the people that said I sat idly and watched it on TV. Because when it comes to the civil rights movement, I'm super proud of the work that my dad did and that what he sacrificed. And there's a lot of people I know who's my dad's age. Okay, my dad is the same age as Muhammad Ali. They were born the same year, a couple months apart. There are a lot of people I know who's my dad's age who didn't do shit during the civil rights movement. Okay, but they still benefited off of us getting free. And there were a lot of black people who thought that the people who were protesting them were wasting their time. So I'm always going to have the utmost respect, because one thing that a lot of black Americans talk about King, but what is happening right now on social media, the revolution being televised by all this stuff being on social media, which is helping it to blow up. The fact that we're in a COVID pandemic, so many people were watching and saw this. And so the COVID pandemic actually helped to fuel this and put more fuel in this fire, which is great, right? But the thing that people fail to realize is that the fact that we have these visuals and these videos is part of what is causing things to change, right? It's the proof. It's the world seeing it now. And America is supposed to be such a great country, and the world is seeing it. So it's going to embarrass America. And America can't have all this chaos. They can't have the world seeing that our people are burning shit down. They can't. So they got to fix this shit. And that is what happened in the civil rights movement. Despite what people think, because my mom is from the North, my dad's from the South. When King had those nonviolent protests, the purpose of it was so that when we get attacked by dogs, when we get attacked by water hoses and whatever else, and the photographers take the pictures, in the photos, you see us being beat and assaulted, but we're not doing anything. If we were to fight back at that time, as in the photos, you would see black people attacking white people, and then they could switch the narrative. And they could say, oh, these black people were attacking the white people. And they could change the story. Because they weren't using video, they were using photos. So that was the strategy behind the nonviolent movement, was for him to get this in the media. And that's exactly what happened. When this got in the papers, people up north were horrified, because my mom was in high school at that time, and she said she had no idea the South was that bad. They knew the South was segregated. They didn't know it was that bad, okay? So people in the North really started to see the horrors in the South, because yes, there are racist people in the North, but it was not the same as a segregated South, okay? Then the world saw the shit, okay? The world began to see what was going on in the United States. And so that's when they started to change shit, okay? So let's not disrespect Martin Luther King, because a lot of people, a lot of young black people act like he was just a punk, okay? And they're like, oh, more Malcolm, less Martin. Don't say that disrespectful shit. Let's not ever disrespect Martin Luther King's name. I'm not with that. Even though my dad was a black radical, he was not a follower of King. He was armed. He was a part of the organization that strategically put the Black Panthers together. The same organization that Assata Shakur was a part of, my dad was a part of, okay? And he wasn't a King follower back then. But as an older man, everybody that he knew is dead now, okay, or vanished someplace. And he sees as an older man that King is the true one who did the work to effect change by doing exactly what I just said. And despite what people think about King, he was armed, and all his crew was armed because it was the South. And Christians in the South actually brought guns against the Klan several times, but Muslims never did. The Nation of Islam never did. My dad knew Malcolm X very well. He was at over 100 of his speeches. Malcolm X was assassinated 5 blocks from where I grew up in Harlem. My dad was there that day. He was supposed to be there with Malcolm that day. He got there after he was shot. And my dad tells me Malcolm never really had a gun. He wasn't walking around armed. He didn't really know how to shoot. But King did, because he was in the South. And black Christians in the South brought guns against the Klan many times. So let's not disrespect his name, okay? Oh, we'll cut from the same cloth. If your family's part of that crew, definitely send me a message. I would love to hear about that. And one of the things about Europe, I have heard so many Black people in Latin America, because the people who know what's up know that Latin America, all of Latin America, has bad race and color problems. It's actually worse in the United States. I have YouTube videos where I talk about that. But all the Latin American countries try to deny that they have a race problem, and their shit is worse than the U.S. Amada La Negra talks about it all the time. And Amada La Negra is like one of the few that talk about it. And you know what? In Latin America, Amada La Negra, Black, she's negra, okay? A J-Lo is not negra in Latin America. So when people in the U.S. are like, oh, Puerto Ricans are Black, all Puerto Ricans are not Black. You have Puerto Ricans who descend from Spaniards. You have Puerto Ricans who are Spaniard and indigenous. You have Puerto Ricans, just like Americans. You got white Americans, Black Americans, Native Americans, Chinese Americans, Japanese Americans, and every motherfucking thing in between. Same thing is true with the Caribbean islands. It's a nation, not a race. So in Puerto Rico, you have white Puerto Ricans, Black Puerto Ricans, Taino Puerto Ricans, everything in between, Chinese Puerto Ricans. Same thing with Jamaica, every place else, right? Every Jamaican is not Black. There are Chinese and Japanese Jamaicans. There's white Jamaicans. There are white Haitians. They're nations, not races, okay? So with that being said, so in the U.S., you hear people like Fat Joe saying all Puerto Ricans are Black. No, all Puerto Ricans are not Black. And when you put things into context, because race is a social construct. So in the U.S., they say that one drop of Black blood makes you Black in the U.S. That's a U.S. rule. That's not the rule in everywhere else, okay? That's not even the rule in Jamaica. In Jamaica, if you really like, they'll call you white, even though your parents are Black. They'll call you white. They don't consider you Black, okay? Race is a social construct. The U.S. says if you're not white, you're Black. That's not the rule everywhere else, okay? And so that's why a lot of Dominicans, in their defense, will say they're not Black because they don't define race the way we do. Saying you're not Black is different than saying that you don't have any African ancestry at all. Some people may try to deny their African ancestry completely, and some people may not have it because they might be straight up Taino. Like there are lots of indigenous people. Me growing up in a Dominican neighborhood, I say Tainos all the time. Okay, Quisqueya was the indigenous name of the island. So there's a lot of indigenous people on the island of Cuba, on the island of Quisqueya, which is Haiti and Dominican Republic. Okay, so some of those people might not. Just because you're brown doesn't mean you have African descent. But the thing is that they define race different. And in Latin America, I'm morena, okay? So you got negra, you got morena. In America, we just have Black, right? If you're American and you have a drop of Black blood, we call you Black. Whether you look like Lauryn Hill or Vanessa Williams, we call you Black. Latin America is not like that, okay? And the thing about negra and morena even, okay, is that if you really look at the history of it, negra is more of a derogatory term, even though it's talking about darker people, Black. When they say Black in Latin America, they're talking about Black, okay? They're not talking about caramel complected or butterscotch. They're talking about Black. Dark-skinned Black people is what negra is. When you're brown, they call you morena. But the other part of morena and negra, which is an issue, is that negra was associated with slaves and morena was associated with being free, with the maroons, with all of that, the people that came from Spain, whatever the fuck, right? So there's the color distinction with negra and morena, but there's also a hierarchy in how they see the kind of Black person that you are. So a lot of people don't understand that about Latin America and how they see race. So things need to be put into context. But there's serious race issues in Latin America. Now you're starting to see these protests spark up in Puerto Rico because, yes, there's a lot of racism in Puerto Rico. How come Tego Calderon, the reggaeton artist, he was a Black Puerto Rican, we barely heard from him. And he has some dope shit. But all the super light and damn near white Puerto Ricans that do reggaeton, oh, their shit blows up. There are for sure color issues in Latin America. This is one of the reasons why I love Cuba so much. I've been to Cuba 4 or 5 times, and I can't wait to go back. But in Cuba, you have salsa bands that are all Black, that look like me and darker, okay? They don't all look like Gloria Estefan and J-Lo. When you go to Puerto Rico, when you go to Colombia, you're not going to see black salsa bands. You're going to see the light mestizo people. And so when people see people like me dancing salsa, they're like, oh my God, how you know how to dance salsa? Salsa comes from Black people. Black people in Cuba, Black people in New York City, okay? It's a street dance, and it comes from black people. And you see that when you go to Cuba, okay? That's the only Spanish-speaking country I've been to where you actually see that. You see the truth. Because Latin America tries to whitewash everything. Everything. And there's a lot of people in the U.S. calling themselves Afro-Puerto Rican that really are goddamn from the Spanish, okay? They're Spanish. They're from Spain. Let's be real. So would that be, so between Latin American countries and then Europe, a lot of, I can't tell you how many times on YouTube I have looked at conversations of black people in Europe, whether it be France, Italy, the UK, and they're talking about how they don't have the race problems the U.S. has, and the U.S. has set the race problems. You do too. What kind of fool, what kind of black European does not realize that them white people over there don't give a fuck about you neither, though? So I've seen a lot of Afro-Europeans try to say that the race issue is just in the U.S. and that's why Europe is better. No, black Americans have always called the shit out. We are, out of the whole black world, okay, out of Africans, Caribbeans, Afro-Europeans, nobody has called out white supremacy and racism the way black Americans have. Why did Marcus Garvey leave black-ass Jamaica and come all the way up to Harlem? There's a whole lot of black people in Haiti, whole lot of black people in Jamaica, whole lot of black people in Trinidad, whole lot of black people in Colombia, whole lot of black people in Cuba. Why did he come all the way to Harlem? Look it up. Marcus Garvey said that the Afro-Americans were the creme of the crop of the black world. There's a reason why he went all the way from motherfucking Jamaica up to Harlem. The black American capital, okay, of progressiveness. Where Malcolm X came, that's the capital of progressiveness in black America is Harlem, period. Everybody comes through Harlem. Castros come through Harlem. Nelson Mandela, when I was a kid and Nelson Mandela got out of jail, my parents took me to see him when he came to Harlem. All the black leaders that matter come through Harlem. Somebody on my YouTube asked me, what do I think about the Latins fighting the blacks in Chicago? Well, to people who are on here who are from Chicago, please add your 2 cents. But from what I heard different things from black people in Chicago. But people I know who really have their ear to the streets, and most people in Chicago know what's going on, actually. They pretty much pay attention. So what I heard was that it was being blown out of proportion, the same way it was in New York. The difference is that Mexicans and blacks in Chicago didn't get along anyway. And it was because of gang shit. And the black people in Chicago told me it came from Mexicans. Like Mexicans would be throwing beef at them, but it was on some gang shit, right? So if you were a black male, they would automatically just assume you were part of a black gang and come at you even if you weren't. So that's what I heard that was about, right? But I heard that in Chicago, just like in my neighborhood in New York, they were just trying to defend their shit from getting looted. And I heard that there were a few young people who took things too far, okay? And that some older heads had to have a talk, and there's really no beef. It was a few young people, young and dumb, took shit a little bit too far. But from my understanding, there really wasn't, blacks and Latinos in Chicago weren't really fighting like people think. And there are videos about that, where they're talking about this in Chicago, okay? So for me, I've been living in Chicago for 3 years. I haven't had a problem with anybody. I haven't had a problem with a Mexican. I get my weed from a Mexican dude. He's the best weed dude ever. He's Mexican. Every time I see him, he be listening to hip hop and shit. Cool ass dude. I never had a problem with white people in Chicago. Nobody. But I do know, because I have a lot of friends from Chicago who know their history and will tell you, I know there's a lot of tension, with Mexicans and blacks in Chicago, mostly on some gang shit. And I've been told that me being a woman, I won't really have that problem. But that's why I didn't move to a Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago, because I'm like, I don't want a black man, whether it be my brother or a man I'm involved with, to come visit me and have a problem because they think they're in the gang. So I purposely did not move to a Latino neighborhood in Chicago for that reason, right? Somebody wrote, now they want to call peace in Chicago with the blacks after 2 of their Mexican gang members got killed. Damn. Yeah, so for Chicago people who know what's up in Chicago with this, please write whatever comments you want on the YouTube video below. Because I know Chicago people are paying attention to shit. Somebody on Instagram wrote, when I visited a mall in Chicago, it was all Mexican people there. And After a few minutes of shopping, they all were starting to circle my family, making us uncomfortable enough to leave 10 years ago. Yeah, I mean, I've heard there's an issue with blacks and Mexicans in Chicago. I haven't experienced it, but I've heard it that's what it is, and I've heard that it's getting better, right? And I don't like that. I really don't like that because to me, I feel like Mexicans and black people, we should be tight. Why are we fighting each other? You know, I don't like that because I don't want to hate on Mexicans. I like Mexicans. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to hate on them, but anybody's gonna hate on me, I'm gonna hate on you back. But I would rather not. Blacks and Mexicans have problems, you know. And it's my understanding that even in LA, the tension between blacks and Mexicans is coming from Mexicans. I don't know, but that's what I heard. And it seems like a lot of American cities, there's that tension. Miami, those racist ass white Cubans in Miami, fuck them. Okay, I don't like them at all. At all. Like I've never experienced blatant racism until I went to Miami. I've taken the bus all through Alabama, Mississippi. Didn't have no problems with anybody. But I go to Miami, those white Cubans look at you like you're disgusting. I don't like them. I can't stand them, like, at all. The Cubans in Cuba, way doper than the ones in Miami. I was going to say that. Okay, so I see lots of comments. I'm trying to make sure I said everything I wanted to. Oh, the last thing I wanted to say is it's important for us to have organization, right? There needs to be organized chaos, and maybe it is. I don't know because I don't know who's organizing all these protests and the rioting. I don't know who the leaders are of this, right? But we need organized chaos. And it almost brings tears to my eyes to see certain things be brought up and to start changing. You're seeing police forces say, we're banning chokeholds. You see police forces, you know, changing certain policies. My dad has said to me when I was just in New York a few days ago, because my mom's a union organizer, my dad said to me, you know what? Your mother's union should come out against the police union, right? And so my dad said that, and then like the next day I see an article about the police unions being the ones who are really responsible for the police getting away with so much shit, for them not looking into certain things, for them brushing things under the rug. We have the police union to thank for that, right? And so I agree with my dad. My mom's union should come out against them. The police union is fucked up, and so is the construction union, but that's a whole other discussion. And racism in this country is institutional. This is the time to have a conversation about all of that. It's not just about police brutality. It's about on every level. There's an institutional fucking racism problem on every level. And everything that Black Americans have achieved, we've achieved it because we're great. We didn't achieve it because we were cheating. There is a culture of cheating in China amongst Chinese kids, okay? They cheat like crazy. Same thing with India. When Black Americans, so when they come here and you see Chinese people, Indian people studying, everybody thinks, oh, they're just smart. They're just studying, being nerds. When a lot of times they be over there sharing cheating methods, right? But don't let a Black nation, don't let an African country or a Black nation be known for cheating, because then they're going to think all of us are cheaters. And we don't cheat. I don't know what Africans do, okay? I can't speak for them because people talk about how Nigerians be scamming people, but I mean, to me, the Black people in America, we're not cheating. When we achieve certain things, we did it fair and square. When you see Black Americans who got a scholarship to an Ivy League school and graduate on top of their class, they didn't do that because they were cheating. And a lot of times they don't even come from means, okay? So that means as Black people, we're super fucking amazing. We always had to be extra amazing, even though we started further back. So that gives us 3 times the amount of strength and power. But it's time for us to stop feeling like we have to work so motherfucking hard in this white supremacist world. So I'm so glad that these Confederate statues are coming down. Fuck those statues, burn them statues, terrorize them statues, get rid of those racist ass, offensive ass motherfucking statues, okay? All this shit needs to be dismantled. So I'm applauding all the white people who are getting up off their ass and going out there and being diligent about the shit. And it's funny because in Harlem, all the Black people who've been in Harlem, they've been acting like we're invisible. All this time, the white people that have been moving to Harlem, they act like they're scared to look at Black people, right? And we didn't like that shit. And I really feel like a lot of Black people in America are too nice to white people and other people when they move into our neighborhoods. We make them feel comfortable. And then they come and try to change shit up. But we move into their shit, they don't do that. They make us feel uncomfortable a lot of times. But anyhow, I forgot what I was saying. I was making a point. I don't remember what it was. Damn it. I forgot. But all I know is that there needs to be, you want organization within the chaos. And so I'm glad to start to see certain structures come down, okay? The police should not be investigating themselves. When they have complaints against them or when they have charges or done things, they need to be taken seriously. It shouldn't be allowed. They shouldn't be allowed to just do whatever and brush things under the rug. Not only do they kill black men, they kill black women. They kill Hispanics. They rape women. They do all kinds of crazy shit. And now you see in Mexico, now Mexicans are going after their police, and that shit's wild. They're even worse than us with what they're burning down in Mexico. Just look it up, So the whole world is being inspired by this. And we as a people, we outnumber the powers that be. But we can only do that if we all stand up. The reason why the Haitian Revolution was so successful was because Africans outnumbered Europeans. Well, let me say Africans and let me say indigenous people too, because it wasn't just Africans. But brown, melanated people, whether it be the indigenous people from the island or Africans, way outnumbered the white people who were on the island of Haiti, were in the country. So everybody stood up, took them out, right? So but then some people are going to have to die. That's bloody. And I know a lot of people aren't trying to die right now, but the ones who are out there and are ready to die and putting themselves on the front line where anything can happen, mad respect to you, for real. And I'm just thinking of ways that I could support you guys to help keep your endurance, okay? Just like with any sport, you got to keep your head in the game. You can't get a defeated mentality, and you also can't get, we're going to win, so I could stop playing so hard. No. You got to keep going hard to the end. Okay? And for those of us who can't go to protest, do something to educate your people, to help the protesters, to get people to vote. You know what I'm saying? We're all in this together, and if all of us play a role and play a part, we really can make some major changes. It's just seeing what has already happened has amazed me. Okay? So I think I've said everything I need to say right now. I've been talking for 47 minutes. Sorry, thanks for listening to all of that. Take care of yourselves, people. Stay strong. Follow my videos and do what you're going to do. Take care of yourselves. Let's keep going. Let's keep encouraging those people that we know who are going out there, who are doing the work. And for those of you who are doing the work, thank you so much. Keep going. Okay? All right, people. Love y'all. Bye.